Well, thank you so much for that introduction, Miss Melissa. And thank you, Ms. Shamira, for stepping in. I was really, truly amazed by all the artwork that everyone was able to come up with. I hope the PowerPoints were, helpful in getting your creative juices flowing. And yes, so here we are. Today, we're going to be talking about communication and art and creating greeting cards, kind of trying to blend all these different things together. It will kind of all make much more sense in a little bit. I know there's a lot of people on and a lot of people want to keep their camera off, which is totally understandable. I'm glad to see that people are responding in the chat that they're here. And that's also really good as well. There will be times where I might ask the group to give me some input. So feel free to step in and unmute yourself and, start your video if you want to participate that way. And it's interesting that we're talking about communication, right? Because with communication, there's a lot happening all at once, such as looking at people in the eye, making eye contact, seeing their facial expressions, reading their tone of voice. And, we're talking about communication in the workplace. And all these things are things that are really important to practice, whether it's in the workplace or not in the workplace, right? And I know a lot of you probably had virtual school of some sort over the last year and a half. So it's really important because a lot could be lost in text, for instance. A lot, like sometimes, I'm sure we have all used abbreviations in text and to type really fast, but then you're on the other side receiving a text message, and you might think, wait, why is this person getting smart with me? Like when they just answered, the letter K in response to something meaningful that you just wrote to them. So sometimes, a lot could be misunderstood in how we communicate, whether it's like through technology, email, text message, or even on Zoom. Like even right now, you might be missing out on a lot because you're not seeing all my facial expressions. I'm not seeing all your facial expressions and listening to your tone and all that. And for instance, like last week, I decided to have to cancel because I had a cough. My voice wasn't sounding that well, and and I might just have been in a more like low kind of energy mode, not myself. So I figured, even though it is difficult to say, I can't make it, it's probably what was best at that time. So finding a way to kind of figure all these things out in the workplace it's really important. And you could practice it with everyone at all times. You could practice it with siblings, parents, grandparents, teachers, social workers, whoever you come in contact with, not just in the workplace. So before we get started, I'm just going to share a very quick PowerPoint, if I can find it. Hold on just 1 second. It's a similar PowerPoint from last time. It just kind of puts everything that I just said together in one place for us. And just hold on tight. There it is. I have multiple windows open, so I apologize for that. Okay, so again, to introduce myself quickly, my name is Deborah King, and I'm the art therapist and studio art manager here at JFCS. And slideshow. So we're going to review community outlines, a little bit of introductions. I know probably most of you know each other, but never too late to get to know each other a little bit more. We're going to review the purpose of the group, preparing your art supplies. Then I will give you instructions and we'll start the project. And at the end, hopefully we'll have a little bit of time to share and reflect. The main thing to be part of this group, I think, is just to be ready as you can possibly be. Put aside distractions, have your art supplies there. Be kind to each other. You know, when it comes to making art or showing artwork, sometimes it could be a very vulnerable kind of process. So just stop yourself if you're about to say something and try to switch it into a kind of wording. And that will help us create a safe space. Being ready, being present kind of go hand in hand. And all of these have these little funny arrows here because they all kind of belong together. And ultimately, we want this to be a time to enjoy ourselves as well. So the purpose of making art in general can be to learn a new skill, a new technical skill, also to get creative, to practice problem solving. Sometimes we mess up in the artwork. So how do we cope with that? How do we come up with creative solutions around it? Art making in general can be used as a coping skill. Art can also help communicate your thoughts and ideas with others. As a matter of fact, you know, before we had, you know, written language as infants, we had visual language. We had visual intelligence. So we thought in pictures. So art is a very innate thing. So even if you don't identify as an artist, you have visualizations, you have dreams, you think in, you know, if I told you to think of somebody really close to you, you might right away think of their face as opposed to their name. It's a pretty interesting thing. We all have memories and all that. And again, to go back to it being a coping skill, it brings about mindfulness. It can be anxiety reducing. Oh, well, I made a mistake there with the lesson. I wrote an F instead of an O. So, whoa, okay, there's a lot. Something is going on. Something is going on with my slideshow here. It should say lesson 2, making greeting cards. So that's kind of interesting. Yeah, there's I think some kind of computer issue because I would not make all these spelling errors, so I apologize for that. So as Melissa had mentioned, we're going to be using watercolors and a brush, a paper, or if you don't have paper, you could also use like the back of a cereal box, cut a cereal box in the future. You could use something like that, something like kind of thicker type of paper. But it looks like right now you have all that stuff in your art kit, which is great. A cup with water and paper towel is helpful. Elmer's glue, dried flowers, and a pen or pencil if you need to. Yeah, there's definitely something wrong with my computer. I don't know if everyone is seeing that. It changed like the letter S to an M. Very strange. Talk about communication. And okay, so if you don't have in the future, if you don't have the nice watercolor postcards that are already folded for you, you could take a large piece of paper, like a regular size printer piece of paper, and fold it in half. And then again, to make it thicker, you could cut out a part of the cereal box and then place that in there instead. But for now, just the paper that you have is good to go. The second step is going to be to use watercolors to create a very light wash. Like there's just a very light layer of color just to give it a little bit of background color. If you want the background to stay the white color of the paper, you could skip step 2. Next, we're going to decorate the cover by creating a little bouquet of flowers with the dried pressed flowers that you have. I'm also going to share in a little bit how you could dry your own flowers if that's something you're interested in. We're going to place them down on the piece of paper with Elmer's glue and your brush. Make sure you wash that brush really well since you're using glue with it. And then here's a communication piece. Maybe not right now, right? Because we're going to be busy doing the artwork. But as you're making it, start to think about writing a sentimental note to someone in your life. So this is how the communication piece comes into play. When you think of that person that has been inspirational to you or has been a role model or someone that is a caregiver to you or somebody that's very special or maybe even a friend, how do you really speak to that person from the heart so that they know that, you know, you've been paying attention to them, that you know who they are. Like for instance, if it's just a happy birthday card, you could just write happy birthday so and so. But now if you wanted to take it a step further, what kind of words are you going to be using to make sure that this card is very unique and specific to that person? So for instance, even though it's, let's say, your mother's birthday, you might want to just not, instead of just saying happy birthday, mom, I love you, you might want to really think and reflect on all the different times that, you know, that person has been there for you, or times when you had a, you know, a funny moment with that person, or a memory, a happy memory or something like that. So then we're gonna get into a more descriptive, more meaningful kind of communication with that person. I'm just gonna show you some examples before we get started with my demo. So these are some examples of what your picture might look like. Of course, the flowers that you have are gonna look different. These seem like these were actually hand-picked flowers, not from a kit, it seems like to me, because like some of them are still kind of, you know, larger, more 3D-like. So these are two different examples. This one is like a little bouquet coming from the side all the way out. And this one is just like basically two flowers. I thought this one was really cool because the artist then went back with the watercolor and added a vase for the flower creation. So that's another, you know, idea for you. And then pretty soon, I'm also going to show you how to create cards with a beet. So if you have leftover beets, it is a vegetable, a root vegetable. If you have something like that, you don't need it for today, but I will show you anyway how to get creative with you know, with food, because I know you guys are doing a lot with Drew and food. So if you ever have beets, you know, this is a different thing you could do with it. Okay, next I'm going to just show you a little little clip about communication in the workplace. And here it is. So this is from Indeed.com, which is a search engine, a website where, you know, a lot of people search for jobs. And I thought this was like quick, to the point, and just a minute long. So bear with me. So I just realized that there is no sound, so let me try to do that.
Remember, employers pay special attention to the skills on your resume.
Is that better?
Skills. Clearly, this isn't one of mine. But we all have skills that employers want. In particular, they want employees who have the right mix of soft skills and hard skills. Hard skills are technical knowledge or training gained through any life experience in your career or education. For example, if you've worked in food service or retail, you might know how to use a point of sale system.
O si estudiaste algún otro idioma, podrías hablarlo perfectamente.
Soft skills, on the other hand, are abilities that can be applied in any job. Think people skills or social skills. These are skills like leadership, Lunchtime. Problem solving. And organization. Still not sure what skills to list? Here are 10 of the most common. Remember, employers pay special attention to the skills on your resume. Well, I think that's everything. Remember that the smallest moves are sometimes the smartest. Like and subscribe for more tips.
Awesome. All right. So just gonna open it up to the group. Any questions so far, or any kind of aha moments that have come up, or maybe this stuff is very familiar to you, and that's fine too. You could also share that. Melissa said directly to me, great video to reinforce what we've been learning. That's great. I'm glad that it's kind of all meshing together for everybody. Yes, so I like how the little clip talked about hard skills, which is like basically something you could learn. Somebody could teach you how to, move this thing to that area and like tell you step by step how to do something. And it's usually things that many people can learn. And then soft skills, which is also things that people could learn, but some people just don't think that those soft skills are that important for their job. Like, let's say, like for instance, myself, I have this kind of training to be an art therapist, and that, that's great. I have the paperwork for it, and that's great. But still, when it comes to looking for a job, I'm going to have to put in my extra work to put those people skills to use, those soft skills, those communication skills, and all that. And that's something that you could practice. Definitely, some people just naturally have certain skills, certain soft skills that are like their strengths, and then it's like playing off of it. And then for some people, like for instance, if somebody is not very social, just in general, like more of an introvert, it's not that they don't have the social skills, right? It's really hard for that person to maybe put themselves out there and really practice those muscles. So just kind of checking in with everybody. Do you guys feel like if you had to list a soft skill that you have about yourself right off the bat, which one do you think you have? What's something about yourself that you think you have? And you could raise your hand or unmute. What, Melissa, what do people usually do? Unmute or just write in the chat?
Either one.
Okay, so whatever you all feel comfortable with. And I'll write the question. So which soft skill do you think you have from some of the things that they listed in the video? AC, I don't want to mispronounce people's names, so
Right.
if you want to help me.
AC said, I'm friendly. Yamina, sympathy.
Being empathetic is really important. Essentially what that means is like being able to feel other people's feelings, to make that connection.
I see. Okay. Quick learner, Tamar, good listener, Caitlin, another good listener, Zenalia.
Amazing. So these that everybody are mentioning are so crucial in the workplace, regardless of what kind of job you go into. And now you would be putting those at, the top of your resume of the skills that you have. I love it. Adapting, respectful, good listener. These are all really important. Then as you get to know yourself, right? If you already are aware that this is one of your strengths, right? Being respectful, adapting, being a problem solver, good listener, quick learner. Start to pay attention throughout the day or throughout the weeks, regardless of whether you're at home, in the workplace, in the classroom, whatever it may be, of when those kinds of skills come to play. What you're gonna find, it's amazing. It's like what you're gonna find is that then there's other like branches of those skills that also come into play. So for instance, being a problem solver, also might come with being a good listener, being really respectful of others. You know, so then you start to like just broaden your strength. And that's what it's all about, you know, just practicing those things. As far as communication skills, a lot of times being a listener and being a good communicator go hand in hand. So I'm going to do a little, I'm going to ask for 2 volunteers really quickly. Anybody want to volunteer? Don't everybody volunteer at once. Caitlin, you want to go? All right, Caitlin, do you want to go with me? I'll just, the 2 of us could be.
Sure.
All right, so we're going to do a little role play. I know this is so hard. I just want to say this is a really hard thing to do. Just pretend you're acting. So basically, Caitlin, if you could just ask me what I did this morning.
Okay, so Deborah, what did you do this morning?
So this morning I woke up, I realized I didn't have any beets at home, so I had to go to the grocery store and get them for this demonstration today. And then I had breakfast. I had breakfast kind of quickly. I ate Cheerios with milk, and I brewed up my beautiful cup of coffee that I love. So now, Caitlin, drum roll. How do you respond to me? Like, give me a summary of what I just said. I purposely said a lot, okay? So just so that
I mean,
you
the
know.
thing that stuck out to me was coffee because I also had a cup of coffee this morning, and I know coffee gets me very energized in the morning, so I'm glad that you had that as well.
Okay, so you found something to relate with me, right? But now to give a summary of everything, usually like to be a really good listener, you could practice giving, you know, giving a feedback right back. Oh, so this morning you did A, B, and C. You went to get beets at the, let's see if I remember. You went to get beets at the grocery store because you ran out for this demo for the class. And then you had Cheerios for breakfast kind of quickly. And the next thing that you did was brew yourself a cup of coffee. And then you could relate to that person. You know, I love coffee too. But no, you did great because you listened to something, you were listening to me, and I know you were, but then it's like, it does take, even if you are a good listener, it takes a lot of effort and a lot of practice to give that feedback right back. So in the workplace, when like a boss or a coworker or somebody's telling you what to do, it might be really hard to reflect right back and to give that person that undivided attention, especially if you have other things on your mind, to-do lists, whatever it may be. So it's something, this little demo here is something that you could practice like with your friends, with, you know, at school, whatever it is, you know, replaying it back. What did the person say? Also asking questions, right? If you missed something that I said, finding a way to, in a polite way, say, excuse me, Deborah, I didn't get all of it. Can you repeat like what you said about the grocery store? You know, like, like I got this and I got that, but not, you know, finding that confidence to be able to figure out like when to ask a question and all that. It's all really hard stuff. And you all are very, you know, not very young, but young enough that, you know, you're really just starting to use these things right now. So awesome job. Round of applause for Caitlin. Thank you so much. All right. So we're going to practice using these skills as we draw. When we share, I'm going to ask you all to, like, let's say if somebody volunteers to share their artwork, I'm going to ask another peer of yours to then reflect on what you said. So by the end of today, we'll be putting these to use. And again, there's no right or wrong. This stuff is hard. All right, so without further ado, if anyone has any questions about what we just did or anything that they want to chime in about, feel free to do that. Otherwise, I will get started with my demos. We're good? All right, okay, so pressed flowers. I think that pressed flowers are really sentimental. It's just, so you do have the kit that, you know, with the pressed flowers already, but it's something that is all around you. Little wildflowers, little greenery here and there. So you could always just like pick one, put it inside of a book, return to it a couple weeks later, and then use it as a just as an easy way to create like this little craft, right? Of course, Miss Melissa provided you with them, which is awesome. So I think like a lot of times, you know, people give like bouquets of flowers to people or something like that. So I like the idea that it's like miniature and it's in a flat piece of like a card. And it's like, you know, easy to make, and you could even find it yourself. So that's definitely something that's more or less the reason why I chose to use the idea of the pressed flowers. If you ever want to press flowers yourself, you would need fresh flowers, and I recommend wild flowers. What I mean by that is like flowers that just grow anywhere. Like, you know, if you ever like pass by a lot of weeds, you're like, oh, you know, there's these like little yellow flowers here and there, or purple or blue flowers, those types of things. I don't actually know the names for them, but they usually are like really small with little leaves and stuff. So you could just take those. This, you really just need a big book, but if you want to, you could get newspaper, cardboard, and tissue paper as well. A heavy book or a brick or a large rock, something heavy. And what they tell you here to do is to layer basically a cardboard piece, a newspaper piece, a tissue piece, and then the flowers. And then like a sandwich, then you would add another tissue paper, newspaper, and a cardboard. And then put your heavy object on it, like in this case, the book. And then you would wait for a couple of weeks, and you would open it and you would have your own fresh flowers. So this is something, even if you run out, if you really like making these, if you run out of the pressed flowers that Miss Melissa provided you with, it's something you could do on your own. I typically, when I use my own pressed flowers, I typically just use like a big book and put it right in without anything. So I will show you page 333. That's where I decided to press these flowers. You know what? I'm gonna just put my little camera here. Hold on, so you all can see what I'm talking about. So here's the book, and I just press the flowers right in here. I think the reason why they mention to add those other layers is that, so here are my little pressed flowers. This is actually lavender and some of the leaves that came with it. So I'm gonna take it out right now. It's been here for like a week. It probably could be here a little longer. But I think the reason why they recommend adding tissue paper and all that is because you want the moisture of the plant to basically be released onto the paper. So it will make your book a little bit moist. So people probably don't want that to happen to their book. So anyway, this is one way to go about it. I also went out and I purchased little paper flowers and paper leaves as well. And then I have my postcard here. And let's get started. One thing about creating the postcards here is that you want the inside to be clean, right? And the back. So one thing that you could do is actually just open it up and put it down flat on like a clean, you know, my board is not that nice because it does have you know, dried paint on it, but it is clean. So on a clean surface, and sometimes it helps to put like a piece of tape down or something right here. I'm just gonna put the glue right here. I'm just gonna check to make sure that I adjust. It's a little bit bright, right?
Deborah, I have a question. It's Melissa. Can you use like tissue, like the regular tissue that you blow your nose with or whatever? Can you use that instead of tissue paper if you don't have tissue paper or even like toilet paper or something to use
Oh
the?
yeah, you could even just use like a piece of paper, like to make your own pressed flowers. Yeah, you could use like your own piece of paper, honestly. Like a piece of paper, like from a printer paper or anything like that. I'm not sure why it's so bright, unfortunately. That's too bad. Let's see if
We can see it.
you could see it.
Yes.
So this is like half of my paper right here. I'm just going to kind of outline that for you, just so you guys can see it. So it's just getting water and purple, a little bit of purple paint, water color. First, I'm just going to show you where the middle of the page is. So you could see how, I opened it up. And yeah, so what I mean by a wash is just, watercolor with lots of water. And then I'm just going to create one color in the background. And if you want, you could use more than one color. As you see, I was inspired to use purple because I have this little bit of lavender here. So that's my inspiration. Then you would wait for this to dry. Watercolor dries pretty quickly, but you can never be too sure. So you might have to wait like 5 minutes or so. For the sake of doing this demo, I'm just gonna go ahead. Oh wow, it's really bright. Yeah, you guys can't even see the purple, can you? Okay, so unfortunately, let's see. Oh, okay, there we go. Are there any questions?
Someone put in the chat. I mean, if you can unmute yourself and ask the question, because I'm not sure what you mean. And Louis, I'll bring you some watercolors later today if you just want to watch right now. I'll make sure I get those to you.
Okay, so if you don't have watercolors, you could leave the paper blank. Okay, so or you could, if you want some kind of decoration in the back, you could also, put some kind of decoration with like pencil or something like that. This is just
you can use your colored pencils.
Color pencils, yeah. This is just to give it like a little background color, just if people want to. And
so, Yamina, I don't understand your question. Can you ask your question?
Do we put the watercolor?
I think okay. I think she's saying, do you have to put the watercolor? I think that's
oh
what
yeah, no, you don't have to. Yeah. Okay, so now I have my dried little pieces of leaves and my flower, and you guys have a nice set. So you could be as creative as you want or as simple as you want. So I'm just going to kind of put the clear glue, like a generous amount, like kind of all over this piece. And I'm
just use their finger, because I don't think they have, some people might have an extra brush, so they only have like the brush with their watercolors.
You could use the brush from the watercolor.
Okay.
You could definitely use that. Like I said, just make sure you wash it out with a generous amount of soap afterwards. Using the brush is really helpful. So because look, now I'm going to go ahead and just place it. By the way, art could get really addictive in a good way, because once you make one, you might really be like just impressed with it. It's just very satisfying. So I just have one little flower thing, and now I'm just gonna get creative with placing all the other little leaves all around. You don't have to be an artist to do this. You could kind of just go with it. You could, just let your imagination flow. I like to put glue, like a light layer of glue all over, so that I could be free to put the little pieces anywhere I want without any hesitation. But again, if you want to do one at a time, you could also do that. Though I do find that it's helpful to just put the glue down that way, because if you're gluing the back of it, like you learn, like you learned that in kindergarten, when you do that with the dried pressed flowers, they're so fragile that they could break. So this is kind of a little like cheat sheet of how to like basically apply it onto the paper first, the glue. So let's say that's the motif that I want. Now I'm going to take the paintbrush and add some more glue onto my paintbrush right here, onto the bristles. And I'm going to go ahead and smooth it all over. Also just being really careful during this part. The glue is also going to give it like a nice shine and even help preserve it in the long run, like preserve the color. It might be something that you have to, you know, go back and add more layers to after it dries, or it might be something that it's fine just with one layer. That is going to be entirely up to you. Also, when it dries, you could get like a permanent marker, and see, this wasn't all the way dry, but you could get a permanent marker and like add more little details if you wanted to, like to stylize it a little bit. And that's about it. That's, you know, there's some debris here, but that quickly gets brushed away. So that is basically how you bake it. Also with your marker at the end, or a pen or something, you could write like a message here. You could write your name, you could, you know, embellish it however you want. Or you can leave it as a blank card just with the dried up flowers, just like this. I'm going to show you 2 examples that are already done. This was using, I used a little bit of the paper flowers because I didn't have dried up flowers, but also I used some little twigs that I found, and I placed them like kind of moving around. It started to remind me of like a tree. So that was this one. And you know, like I said, you could go into it with your marker and add more things to it. So what I mean by that is I could, at this point, let's say if I wanted my flowers to have some, oh, you might not see that, some like little squiggly lines, I could add some of that. I could add a background, like a line at the bottom. Somehow that's not very, I could see it, but you guys can't see it that much. So hold on a second. Let me just see.
I can see it a little bit. I can see, get the
Yeah,
idea. Yeah.
more. I wanted it to be purple, but it's okay. I'll use black because that you could see. So yeah, this is what I mean. You could do, you know, create little stylized marks.
Mhm.
You could do a little brown, you know, whatever you want. You could also add a message, right? Like, so if it's a happy birthday, you could write happy birthday on it. You could write just because. I like just because cards. So I'll write just because. And it's like not for a holiday or anything, but it's just because, and then you could start just because I'm thinking of you, or just because you're a very important person in my life.
And you can even go to like the dollar store and get stickers. If you're a person who, if you don't like your handwriting, then I know like at the dollar store, you can get like a whole pack of stickers that has like, thank you, or just because, or something like that, that has words. So if you're a person that doesn't like your handwriting.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yes, definitely. Yeah, okay, so that's how you make it with these, you know, with the actual pressed flowers.
Mhm.
I'm gonna move on to, so you guys could work on that. Now I had to show you the beets. So the beets, I'm gonna show you, this is a whole beet. Has anyone ever eaten beets? They're like red on the inside. They have all these leaves. Anybody eat beets before, like beet salad? No? Sort of
Someone
like a
said
sweet
yes,
potato.
someone said no.
Yes, no,
Couple
yeah, okay.
yeses. Okay.
You know, I feel like well, no, people use cranberries, never mind, for Thanksgiving. But you know, it's a root vegetable. I think a lot of things are made with it, like in the winter time. Drew would be more able to answer questions about beets, but it's basically like, it looks sort of like a sweet potato, but inside it's red. So I'm going to show you really quickly. I'm going to transfer this around a little bit so you all can see what I'm about to do, because it is quite interesting to use. You know, like somebody mentioned, well, what if I don't have these supplies of you know, watercolors? Well, this is a beet that I cut in half. So essentially it was just like this, and you know, you got to be careful when you use a knife, so nothing you need to do right now. But essentially you cut it in half, and if you could see, I'm going to use the back of my hand here, or a piece of paper. I'll use a piece of paper here. It looks like a heart. Isn't that amazing? So what I did is I just cut it a little bit more right here. Cut this section out to make it look like a heart. But I didn't even have to cut the bottom. Okay, so that's basically how you work with this beet. It is really pretty. And these are some of the cards that I made with it. You just add a little bit of water to it, and then you press it down and you make the shape of it, just like this. I found that I had to actually put lots of water. Like I put, this is a cup of water and a paintbrush. I had to like really put water onto this surface of the vegetable. And then you might not be able to tell, but then I used the knife. Got to be really careful, but I used the knife to kind of make little slits onto it so that it could pick up on the pigment of the color. So I just like kind of shredded it a little bit. You might be able to use a fork as well.
Fork is good, or scissors.
Or scissors. Yeah, just to kind of see, to give it
Careful.
some texture. You have to be really careful with this. But you could also just, you know, not, you know, skip that part.
That just
And
helps the more color come out, I guess.
it helps the color come out. Yeah, because it doesn't always give you the perfect little heart. But let me just show you right on here how it might look. So I'm gonna press it down. Let's see, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Ta-da, it kind of worked. Oops, it's.
So when it dries, it'll be like a nice heart shape.
Yeah, it's, and then it's really cool how it dries. So that one was a little bit better, but then you can go in here, you can kind of like make it a little straight like
Nice.
this with the paintbrush.
That's cool.
But so here, I'll show you the ideas that came up from it. I saw this one online where the person then added just like a pencil drawing with like little hands and feet.
Mhm.
And it says, "My heart skips a beat when I'm with you."
That's nice.
Then this one, it was like, it looks like, you know, flowers that are heart shaped. And so it made me remember, it, you know, inspired me to have this quote here that I came up with: "Love grows stronger."
Mhm.
You know, just because it looked, you know, I added a little embellishment of leaves. This is when creativity, like if you find your own process, you might come up with an idea that will inspire you to make a card for somebody, maybe somebody that you don't even expect to write it to, but then suddenly you're like, oh yeah, you know what? This reminds me of so-and-so in my life.
Right. And so much less expensive than buying greeting cards. At the
Oh
store,
yeah, greeting
and
cards
more
could be like
personal.
$5
Yeah,
or more. This one is really simple. I'm gonna show you how to do this one. You see, I wrote "I love you" on it. What you need is, and this is probably the safest type of thing to do, is you need a white Crayola. Well, I use a Crayola crayon, and I'm just gonna reuse this paper. So you're gonna write a message in white. So thinking of you. I'm just gonna write thinking of you. So it's, you can't see it, right? right now. I can't see it either. Thinking of you. You have to write it in crayon. It might not really work if you use, pencils. It might work, it might not work. I would use a crayon. But then I'm also gonna draw like some like heart shapes just for fun. I have part of my beet right here soaking into this water. So this is my watercolor now. And I'm just gonna go ahead and take that pigment, that paint of the natural paint, and just wash it over. Oh, sorry, hold on a sec. I'm gonna use this because it helps make it come up a little bit better. Use the little heart thing. And there it is. Thinking of you.
Nice.
It starts to emerge.
I see it.
It's really fun. Really, really fun to do. Really easy. And, it's not like it's a waste of food. Like sometimes, you might have something around and part of the beet is no longer good to use. Well, you could put it to use for something like this. Also, if you're super clean with it, you could have just used half of it for the arts craft and the other half you could actually use for food. So there's also that. But as it dries, I don't know if you could tell from these, like some parts start to get like darker and some are light. So it's kind of neat how that kind of naturally happens too. So it won't look like this in the end. It will look more like some parts will be like darker and
Right.
some. So that is about it with our greeting cards.
Thank you, Deb. That was great.
Yes.
So also, we're getting ready to stop, but I just wanted to say, we'll take a quick break before our next workshop. This would be a great idea in the workplace when you go on an interview and you have like a really good interview, you make a nice impression. You can make a card like this and send it as a thank you card, because that's kind of like a lost art, but it's very appreciated and can help you stand out when there's multiple candidates and they're trying to make a close decision. Sometimes things like a thank you card can be the difference in whether or not you get a job. So
wow.
even when you have like a shadowing or a mentor, so it does apply to not just for your own self-care, but to the workplace in terms of greeting cards or a letter, using a letterhead or something to write a nice note to someone that has helped you get a job or to get a job. So I want to say thank you, Deb. We are